Special Tactics and Rescue Service. S.T.A.R.S, a group of specialized personnel within the Raccoon City's police department, consisting of ex-military and academic experts, or basically mixing soldiers with scientists to counteract increasing city terrorism and other substantial crimes within Raccoon City. The group of 12 members was split between two teams, Alpha Team and Bravo Team, and blah blah blah. Look, you're not here for a full history lesson. If you clicked on this video, you probably already know enough about S.T.A.R.S and how they mostly were killed during the mansion incident of the original Resident Evil. Everything I've said so far should be enough for you to understand a bit of who these people are. Currently, S.T.A.R.S has been disbanded, and only 4 members are still alive today. Using math, that means 8 members have died. Those deceased are what we're here to talk about. I'm going over how they died, or how I can determine they died based on the in-game events and clues. No books or other material, just how we came across their demise in the games. And with my assessment, I will then rank them how they died. Kind of morbid, sure, but that's what I'm doing here. So I have the tiers listed here. We have, I think it's pretty standard. We got S, which is just above and beyond. We got A, B, C. D is where it starts getting bad, and then there's just last one, which is F. I have named the tiers just to have a little bit more fun with the names. So S is gone but not forgotten, meaning that their death was above and beyond, not necessarily that it was noble. Whatever you went through, you deserved to be remembered for going through, kind of thing, ordeal. A is there was nothing you could do, so meaning basically this death was just almost unavoidable, really unavoidable. The situation is just terrible. It's just almost nobody would live through that. B is unfortunate circumstance. So if things were a bit different, you would have had a better chance, or maybe there's a culmination of things that led to your situation where it just made it just very unfortunate. And then C is deserved better. That sounds a little maybe it's bad, but it's more of you deserved better than the death you got. It's not necessarily a bad death, but it's not terrible, but a better glorious death would have been more fitting, kind of thing. Then D is where it starts getting bad, where we have kind of embarrassing. So this is where it's okay, you died. You really probably shouldn't have, but things happen, Yeah. And then F is, wait, what? It's really, that's how you died? Just having a little fun with the names. I mean, you can ignore the names if you want. Also, since there are remakes now of these games, if a death differs enough from its original, I will have 2 separate entries for that one member and rank them as they died in each entry separately. I think that's enough rambling. Let's just get on with the freaking list, okay? Because it's not really that complicated. So the first one we got is Albert Wesker. It's just in alphabetical order, so he is the first, which is weird because he died last. He died while being drowning, submerged in lava, and getting 2 rocket launcher rockets to the face. Now that's quite the spectacle of a death, but the thing is, his death was just, I felt like it was so avoidable. I'm gonna put him in unfortunate circumstance, but it's an unfortunate circumstance that he put himself into. He had many chances where he could have killed his foil, and that is Chris Redfield. He could have killed Chris when Chris was in the lab, or Jill when Jill was in the lab, or when he captured Chris or Jill at the beginning of the game in the prison. He could have killed them in the first game, no problem, but he didn't. He wanted to show off Tyrant to them, and thus he got impaled by Tyrant, and then he had to scurry away before the mansion exploded. And then in Code Veronica, he shows back up, and he's he has a little scuffle with Chris, but he toys with him a lot until the point where he's I actually gotta go because the place is blowing up. I got stuff to do. I'll see you later, Chris. Could have killed him then, And then in 5, there's a couple points where he could have just killed Chris, like capped him in the head, or maybe fought more, you know, seriously with, Battlesuit Jill. But no, I don't know, gets a little cocky, gets a little too cocky, and, ends up succumbing to his own demise, really. I don't think it was a terrible death. I mean, it's still a huge spectacle of dying, like, in lava, in a volcano, with rocket launchers getting blasted at your face. So, like, it's just unfortunate circumstances, and that's totally on him, though. So yeah, we're gonna put him on B. So next we got Brad Vickers, but from the original Resident Evil 3, because he actually dies vastly different in the remake. So in the original, he is pretty in a panic state. He talks to Jill for a moment, and then the whole Raccoon City incident's going down. He's stuck in this city full of zombies. He's panicking. He follows or runs into Jill at the police station right outside of it, and when he's running up to Jill, Nemesis jumps over the wall in between Jill and Brad, and basically corners Brad up against the wall of the gate of the police department. And Brad doesn't really have anything. He's got his handgun. Jill doesn't really have anything. I think he have like a shotgun at most at the time. He picks up Brad, and he just freaking impales him through his mouth face with his tentacle thing. And yeah, I'm just gonna put, there was nothing you could do. Like, he was just pinned up against the wall. He was, it looked like he was already in panic state. He looked like he was tired when he showed up. There was just nothing he could do, and he asked for help from Jill, but what could Jill really do either? Like, there was just nothing he could do, and unfortunately that's just how he died. But I would say that's a pretty big death there. I would say an A. Nothing you could do. But then we go to Resident Evil 3 Remake, and his death is just so crappy in that. So at the beginning, he finds Jill, and they end up running from like a horde of zombies that are chasing them, and they get inside of a bar or something, a restaurant, and he's like blocking off the door while Jill's going to grab something to like maybe help, defend it. I forget what the hell's going on, but he's basically blocking off the door, and a zombie just opens up and bites him in the arm. Jill helps him close his door, but he's bitten, so they know what's going to happen. They know he's going to turn, and instead, Brad's just like, all right, you know what, Jill, just get the hell out of here. Like, don't mess up like I did. And he just like forces her out. And that's the last time we see him alive as a human being. This is, I would say, once he's turned into a zombie, he's dead in my eyes. Like, he's already dead. So when fast forward, we find him at the police station with Carlos and Tyrell trying to get into the police department, and he actually bites Marvin. Like, he's the one who infects Marvin in Resident Evil 2 like remake, which is kind of cool in a way. It's like, oh wow, it like kind of like circles around. Then Carlos just kills him, like zombie dead. And honestly, the whole thing's just kind of, it's not great. I kind of want to put it in kind of embarrassing, just because I'm also comparing it to his original death, which was like, you die from Nemesis. Like, how can you, like, that's such a awesome death. Like, how, but then you just go to getting bit by a zombie. And when we see him as a zombie later on with Carlos, he doesn't seem like he's really that like beaten up more afterwards. So it's not like he was getting chomped on by the horde or anything. Like, it just seems like he got bit, kind of got away from the kerfuffle that was happening there, and then just turned. And it's just kind of lame. It was also off screen. And honestly, it's a huge waste of oh my god, Resident Evil 3 Remake. Honestly, I'm not a huge fan of that game, and this is a great reason why. Like, why not at the beginning of the game? Kind of going on a tangent. At the beginning of the game, Jill is having all these, it's showing her like she's not dealing with the whole surviving the mansion incident. She's wondering if they're infected, if she's gonna turn. She's afraid she'll turn. She's having this nightmare that she turns and she has to like kill herself. And she has like this like detectives board of like strings of like, okay, well this is the virus. Like maybe we're immune. Like what are the odds and blah blah blah. And she's just like it's just like consuming her life at the moment. She's just very stressed out about this. And then she witnesses Brad, just one of her fellow coworkers, someone that she would be like concerned about. She seems concerned about when he gets bit. And then he pushes her away, and that's okay, but like, why couldn't Jill have been the one to find Brad as a zombie later on? Like, that you set up this story element of somebody, like, people around them, her, like, becoming zombies, her being, like, terrified of that, like, situation. It's like her worst nightmare at the moment. And you have this perfect opportunity for her to actually deal with that in a friend, and you don't. You don't let that. You just give that to Carlos. Like, what the hell were they thinking with that? I don't understand that. It's such like a huge prime opportunity for, like, storytelling and character development. Like, it's mind-boggling how they looked past that, or said, like, no, this is better, or this is good. It's so infuriating. I'm sorry, no more tangent, though. I'm putting it in kind of embarrassing because he just got bit, and then seemingly that's it. Like, he's not missing an arm or chunks of his body. It's just a little embarrassing. All right, moving on. We got Edward Dewey. So Edward Dewey is in S.T.A.R.S Bravo team, and he dies in Resident Evil 0 at the beginning. So they split up when their helicopter crashes. They go and they split up to search for Billy Cohen and any other, weird activity that might be happening in the forest, since that's the whole reason they're there. And Rebecca goes into the train, and Edward busts through a window at one point, and he's all bitten up and gashed, blood just everywhere. And, in his last words, he's just like, you got to be careful, Rebecca. There's zombies and monsters out there. So the thing is, then he passes out dead, and immediately after, a zombie dog, or Cerberus, jumps through the train window, seemingly following Edward, and then attacks Rebecca, but you deal with it. So monsters in Resident Evil could be anything. Now, I believe he probably only came across zombies and Cerberus, and Cerberus were probably what he referred to as monsters, the zombie dogs. So I would have to say, like, yeah, it looked like all they had was handguns on them. Like, none of them really had anything spectacular going into the forest. So to deal with unknown threats like that, zombies and Cerberus, like, he was just caught off guard, and he probably just got attacked by zombies and then ambushed by a dog or two, and then was followed by the dog, couldn't get it off its trail, and he just fell victim to his wounds eventually, and unfortunately turns into a zombie, but he dies. But I'll put him into unfortunate circumstances because they just they weren't ready for this. I mean, nobody was ready for this. This is kind of the whole point of the mansions. It's like, couldn't really do anything. So I'll put him in an unfortunate circumstance. Then we get Enrico Marini. So Enrico dies in the Resident Evil 1, or the remake, and so he survives. He goes through Resident Evil 0. He survives a whole day. Then he makes his way to the mansion. He learns a little bit about Umbrella there, and then he makes it to the cave system, and Jill or Chris find him in there, and he knows he's learned a lot more about what's going on. He knows that Umbrella's behind the murders, the mansion incident, these monsters, that they're behind it. He knows that there's somebody in S.T.A.R.S that is a traitor, and whether he knows who they are or not, seems like he doesn't know exactly who. But he knows somebody's a traitor, and he seemingly he's injured at this point. Whether that was from the traitor or from the monsters is a little unknown, but it seems that he's a bit on edge. So I tend to think that he was maybe chased down by Wesker, but possibly also was maybe injured by some of the hunters in that cave system. Either way, in the end, he gets shot by Wesker through his vest. So, like, I don't really get that. Like, bulletproof vest. I think in the in the original, it makes it seem like he's more shot through the head. But either way, maybe Wesker gave him he swapped out his vest before he went on the mission with a not bulletproof vest or something. I don't know. It's possible, because Wesker was already in on the whole thing. So I don't know. I'm gonna put him in unfortunate circumstance. Actually, I'm gonna put him in deserved better because he didn't die from some monster. As far as we know, this was just because he learned too much. At Wesker's just like, I'm gonna end you now because you know too much and you're gonna give away my plan. So I'm gonna put in deserved better. He was the captain of Bravo team. He did really well up to this point, apparently. Like seemingly he did. So we're gonna give him deserved better, but he did all right. Now we got Forrest Spare from Bravo team. He was found dead on the balcony of the Spencer mansion. If you examine his body, it looks like he's been pecked to death. Something like that. He essentially dies the same way in either one, but in the remake, he is sitting, hunched over, but sitting on a chair, which is very odd. But here's the thing. In the original, there's a hallway, which is almost redundant, but there's a redundant hallway before you go out to the balcony, and there's blood leading on the wall and on the floor leading out to the balcony where you do find Forrest. So I think it makes most sense that Forrest probably was injured by some other creature, whether it be zombies, zombie dogs, who knows, something else throughout his journey from the day before in the forest to the mansion. In the mansion, he probably got injured, made his way to the balcony, either went to rest, died from his wounds, and then was just picked at by the crows afterwards, or he went out there, was attacked by the crows when he was already severely injured. I would say most likely fended himself off from them, but then he just went to sit down and take a breather, but ended up just dying there. I feel like there's a bit of more of a story there because of that blood that came before, and just the fact that crows killing him just seems very unlikely. Like, I don't think a bunch of crows would have gotten to him. Realistically, why couldn't you just run, like getting attacked by a bunch of crows, why wouldn't you just run back into the hallway? Unless maybe he was being pursued by something else as well, like he didn't really have a choice, he thought maybe the birds were a better option, maybe there was a monster waiting out for him in the hallway there too. It's a little unknown, but I'm gonna have to put him in deserved better because I do feel like he was injured. Joseph Frost. So he dies at the very beginning. He's in Alpha Team. He dies at the beginning of Resident Evil 1. He is ambushed by a pack of Cerberus. He dies essentially the same way in both games, in the remake and the original. In the original, he gets a few shots off with his shotgun, but seemingly there's a bunch of dogs that, just surround him and attack him. So it just seems like there's just way too many for him to take care of. Also, in the remake, he gets surprised by one, gets like pounced on, and then a bunch of them just come around and start like pulling at his arms and legs. And Jill is there in the remake, trying to shoot at the dogs, but they're just not doing anything. They just don't care about the gunshots. They just keep going at him. So it's unfortunate circumstance because I feel like if it was just the one dog, they would have been able to help him, or he would have been able to get him off. But the fact that he got jumped on by a pack of them all at once, and they were just relentless on him. Now we go to Kenneth Sullivan from the original. Now, I think this is interesting because I originally was like, okay, well, he dies the same way, seemingly, in both games. But then when I looked over the film and the area that he's in, I feel like I had to split him up in my mind. So here's the thing. You go to investigate, and you see him out in the dining room. Outside the dining room in that hallway, and he's just being chomped on by a zombie. The zombie has already eaten off half his face. He's pulled off his head. He drops the head, at least in the uncut version, and it's just like, oh crap, this zombie got him. So one, it's like, okay, well, it's a zombie, so like you died to a zombie, but at the same time, we didn't see exactly everything, but it's most likely that he just died by the zombie, but maybe he had more wounds beforehand. I would just put it as he deserved better from dying to a zombie, but who knows? Maybe he was very tired at this point. Again, it's been a full day afterwards. He's also one of the older members of the group, being, I think he's like 45 or something, but I mean, they're all in relative good shape. I don't think that the age thing really matters. 45 isn't that bad anyways. But yeah, he dies by zombie, but he's also in the corner of a room, so there's nowhere for him to go. So he might have gotten ambushed, and that was it. Like, that was the end of him. Like, it's a little bit like, it's not that great, but it's not as bad as the remake. So in the remake, for one, you go, you hear the gunshot, you go after him, and you find that he's being eaten. Now, one, you actually pick up a tape from him afterwards. So then at the end of the game, you can like watch the tape because you have the equipment to do it, and you watch his tape, and it's only 15 seconds long, but it's him like running or just like walking down the hall, and he's just like frantically like shooting at this one zombie that's moving so slow, and he doesn't sound like he's injured or like he's tired, like exhausted. Like, he sounds just like more like a little frantic, a little irritated, and then he just gets attacked by the zombie, and then that's it. So the footage is just like, okay, why the hell did you die to the zombie like this? But then another thing that's different from the original is that in the original, he's stuck in a corner of like this hallway where there's no way out. Like, the zombie cornered him. But in the remake, there's a doorway that literally leads out and around the bend. I'm gonna put it in... Wait, what? I did read someone's theory that you find blood in the dining room right before you find Kenneth, and it's possible that that blood was Kenneth's blood, and I think that does make sense. But the thing is, like, one, like, how did a zombie sneak up on Kenneth there? Someone was saying maybe there was one, like, hiding under the dining room table. Maybe it fell from the balcony overhead, the banisters or whatever, and maybe it just, like, fell on top of him. Maybe it got a good chomp on him. Maybe it bit his leg. But these are a bunch of, like, maybes. And when you look at his body, he doesn't look, besides being in a weird position, like, he doesn't look like he's really injured anywhere other than his neck. Like, it doesn't, I don't see any blood on his ankles or like ripped clothing. Like, it's all, he just seems like he's been injured in his neck. So why he's not doing better against a zombie, like running from a zombie, it's a little unknown. So maybe he was injured in the dining room, but even then, it's like, how did a zombie get the better of you in a situation like this? It doesn't seem super likely. And the fact that it's not like anything else could have attacked him. Like, it must have been the zombie if he was in the dining room, because you immediately go into the dining room after and there's nothing there. There's just blood. And then you go into the room afterwards and there's just him and the zombie. The next one is Kevin Dooley. Now, again, Kevin Dooley is not a member of S.T.A.R.S, but Kevin he was flying the helicopter that the Bravo team was taking. It crashed, and he stayed put on the helicopter. So his death is just very baffling to me, because in Resident Evil 0, the helicopter makes a crash landing. Everybody gets out. Everybody is seemingly okay. Like, there's nothing, nobody's injured or anything, but Kevin stays put in the helicopter. And the last thing that we see is that, like, they leave the helicopter, they close the hatchway, and they're gone. So now we just have to imagine what happened to him between Resident Evil 0 and him being found in Resident Evil 1, the remake, because he's only in the remake. And Joseph Frost finds him, and in the beginning, he finds that the helicopter is open. He looks around, and Kevin Dooley's just like slumped over his chair like this, and he has he has wounds. He has a big gash mark on his eye with like blood, and the gash mark is very like, it looks like it would be a Cerberus. It looks like a dog like clawed it out, and we know that there's the Cerberus, there's the zombie dogs, and the zombies in the forest. Now the question is like, how the hell did somebody get inside the helicopter? There's a couple things I can think of. So one, he opened up the helicopter door to get some fresh air, I guess. Maybe that happened. Maybe he got out of the helicopter at one point. Maybe checking out the, damage. That seems likely, right? Then he like went back inside, but didn't close the gate, the door. I mean, this is all speculation, but then the other option that I can think of is maybe Edward Dewey originally getting attacked, or another member of the group. Maybe they ran back to the helicopter, was talking to Kevin about what they've seen or what they've encountered, but they were followed by Cerberus dogs, and they jumped into the helicopter and started attacking Kevin, and the other members ran off into the forest because they knew, well, I can't stay here. There's monsters that are attacking Kevin. But this is all speculation. There's nothing concrete on it. So I have to say, wait, what? Just on the pure, I guess speculation. It just looks like Kevin was, he was just caught off guard. So I don't know. Maybe, I think the best bet is maybe he went out helicopter, to check the damage and see what's going on, went back into his seat, and then got attacked, because it just doesn't make any sense otherwise. I mean, I guess maybe again the opening the door for air, but all these three situations are just speculations. They're just speculations because we have no information on this. So because I find it slightly bizarre, and because we just have no information, I have to put it in wait what. But maybe you don't even care because Kevin Dooley isn't part of S.T.A.R.S, so it doesn't matter. You can throw him away from this tier list if you want. Alright, but moving on, we got our last victim with Richard Aiken. Now, he has two different death methods here. So from the original, Richard Aiken is bitten by Jan, so he's been poisoned. So you go back and get the serum to tend to his wounds, but he ends up dying to the snake bite. Although it doesn't look like it's a snake bite, it looks more like a giant human attacking them. He was an Attack on Titan or something, and they just munched on him from the side or something. The bite marks don't add up. I don't know, it looks weird. But he ends up dying either way, so there's not anything that you can do for him in the original. So with that being said, I would say I would put him in there's nothing you could do, because he came across Jan, the gigantic poisonous snake, and he actually got away from it and almost lived, kind of. So I would say there's nothing you could do. You got attacked by a gigantic snake. Yeah, there's nothing you could do, I would say. But in the remake, when you come across Richard, you can get him the serum. If you don't get him the serum in time, he will die the same way. But if you give him the serum, he's fine. He'll take a rest and he'll recover for a bit. And then, if you're playing as Jill, when you go back to fight Jan, Richard will come back and help you. And in this instance, Jan actually goes for a death blow on Jill, but Richard jumps in front of it, pushes Jill out of the way, and ends up getting swallowed whole by Jan, the giant snake. Or if you're playing as Chris, later on when you get to the Aqua Ring or whatever it's called, I forget, but the place where they keep all the Neptune sharks, the giant one ends up coming to attack Chris. Richard, again, jumps in front of Chris, pushing him out of the way, and gets gobbled up by the shark instead. And that's the image I have right now. And for that reason, I'm going to put him in Gone But Not Forgotten, because that was an honorable, selfless death. He saved his teammates in the end, both of them. I think Chris's is a little more tragic, because when Chris enters the room, Richard's there, and he's up against the railing, holy crap, he knows something's going on. And Chris doesn't really read the room, though. He doesn't read Richard's expression. He's just like, "Oh, hey, Richard, what's up?" And he starts walking towards him. And then Richard sees the shark coming, and he's like, "No, Chris!" And he pushes him out and then gets eaten. And it's kind of like, Chris, like, come on, man. Like, I wish we could get maybe a game with him, seeing like how he survived his events in Resident Evil 0. I know that there's Umbrella Chronicles where you get to like go through the mansion a little bit with Rebecca and Richard, but I want to see before that. Like, what the hell was Richard doing before that? I think he's a cool character that we could, honestly, like, he's one of my favorite S.T.A.R.S members, just like overall. Like, he might be like my second or third or something. I don't know. He's a cool character. He definitely deserves Gone but Not Forgotten for sacrificing himself. Great guy. All right, so I guess that's what we have for our tier list. I might order. I'm gonna order them actually. So there's nothing you could do. Nemesis was probably. I'm gonna keep Nemesis. Brad's death over Richard's. I mean, Nemesis is just like a crazy powerhouse, like tyrant. So like, what are you gonna do against that? Unfortunate circumstance. I'm gonna put Wesker on the bottom just because his ego got ahead of him. I'll put, I think, Joseph Frost at the top of it because he just got ambushed by the Cerberus, and maybe Edward Dewey did too, but it looks like we know for a fact that Joseph got a terrible, the worst end of that. I mean, Edward did get away, so there's that at least, but Joseph didn't really have a chance. So yeah, I'll put Joseph, Edward, and then Albert. And then deserved better. Actually, I think this is fair here because Enrico, he would have been fine if he didn't succumb to the monsters. He just Wesker got to him, which I think, like, you know, with how well he was seemingly doing, you know, surviving, like, I think he just deserved better, especially with him being the captain of Bravo team. Forrest, again, there's a little speculation what's going on there, so I'll put him in the middle, but also, I mean, he died to crows and potentially something else. I think he was injured beforehand. I don't know what everybody else thinks, but that's what I'm going with. And then Kenneth, he died by a zombie, but yeah, he deserved a little bit better than that. So this is fine. And then, yes, Brad Vickers in the remake is kind of embarrassing. And then, wait, what? I have to put Kevin on the bottom just because we just don't know. We don't have enough information on him. Yeah, even though Kenneth was pretty bad. But who knows? Maybe something, given Kenneth a little bit benefit of the doubt, maybe he was caught off guard, you know, in the beginning. Maybe he was bitten on the neck already and was kind of like slowly coming to death. But all right, so this is actually the exact order of the tier list now. So yeah, I made this on Tiermaker myself. It's up on there. It's called Resident Evil S.T.A.R.S Members Deaths plus Kevin Dooley, because he is, again, not actually part of the S.T.A.R.S. But yeah, so this was kind of a silly little thing I wanted to do. I love making things on Tiermaker, and I love Resident Evil, and yeah. I think I'm going to rank the Resident Evil games at one point, but not sure what I'm going to do. But for this video, I'm all done. It's all over with, and you don't have to watch it anymore. So thank you, though, for watching. I'll see you guys in the next video, whenever that is. Bye.